Book 13 by Jonathan Swift. p. 285, par 1 Clarendon without he likewise consented to those. Swift bad. p. 286, par 3 Clarendon, the king was received by the Marquis of Argyll with all the outward respect imaginable. Swift. That dog of all Scotch dogs. Ibid ditto Clarendon. They did immediately banish him Daniel O'Neill the kingdom, and obliged him to sign a paper, by which he consented to be put to death, if he were ever after found in the kingdom. Swift. In Scotland with a Parks. p. 287, par 5 Clarendon, the king's table was well served. Swift, with Scotch food, etc., etc., etc. p. 300, par 36, Clarendon, the king had left, the Duke of York with the Queen with direction that he should conform himself entirely to the will and pleasure of the Queen his mother, matters of religion only excepted. Swift, yet lost his kingdom for the sake of popery. p. 301, par 37, Clarendon, the Duke of York was full of spirit and courage and naturally loved designs. Swift, quantum mutatus. p. 304, par 42, Clarendon on the proposed match between the Duke of York and the Duke of Lorraine's natural daughter, only Sir George Ratcliffe undertook to speak to him about it, who could only make himself understood in Latin, which the Duke cared not to speak in. Swift. Because he was illiterate, and only read Popish Latin. p. 305, par 44, Clarendon, the Queen bid him the Chancellor of the Exchequer assure the Duke of York that he should have a free exercise of his religion as he had before. Swift, who unkinged himself for popery. p. 306, par 45, Clarendon, it was indeed the common discourse there in Holland, that the Protestants of the Church of England could never do the king service, but that all his hopes must be in the Roman Catholics and the Presbyterians. Swift, a blessed pair. Ibid par 46, Clarendon, the Duke of York was fortified with a firm resolution never to acknowledge that he had committed any error. Swift, no, not when he lost his kingdom or popery. p. 311, par 58 Clarendon, the king had friendship with Duke Hamilton. Swift, vix intelligo. p. 318, par 75, Clarendon, the king's defeat at Worcester 3d of September. Swift, September 3d always lucky to Cromwell. p. 339, par 122, Clarendon, there was no need of spurs to be employed to incite the Duke of York, who was most impatient to be in the army. Swift, how old was he when he turned a papist and a coward? p. 340, par 123, Clarendon, the Duke pressed it his being allowed to join the army with earnestness and passion in which he dissembled not. Swift, dubitat Augustinus. p. 343, par 128, Clarendon, the Duke in the French army, got the reputation of a prince of very signal courage, and to be universally beloved of the whole army by his affable behaviour. Swift. But proved a cowardly popish king. p. 348 line 50, Swift, Scots. p. 349, par 140, Clarendon, the Chancellor, told his Majesty this trust would for ever deprive him of all hope of the Queen's favour, who could not but discern it within 3 or 4 days and by the frequent resort of the Scottish vicar one Knox, who came with Middleton to Paris to him, who had the vanity to desire long conferences with him, that there was some secret in hand which was kept from her. Swift. The little Scottish scoundrel, conceited vicar,